After the Ure Museum acquired its mummified cat's head from Liverpool Museum in 1963, the cat had a rather quiet life at the back of a cabinet in the museum, which looked something like this until 2005, and then after its redesign, it lived in a little more style. In the 2005 redesign of the Ure Museum, our cat mummy took pride of place in the upper left corner of the last of the display cases, appropriately one dedicated to the theme of death, alongside other Egyptian as well as Greek antiquities. As you may have heard or noticed, the cat's head is still encased in its Victorian glass jar, stoppered with cork and a bit of wax. I wonder how many visitors to the museum wanted to open the jar and check out what's inside, both to see the cat, its teeth and whiskers, and to see and read the note that its earlier collector or curator had put inside. Though it was a crowd pleaser, on account of being enclosed in the Victorian glass jar, ironically, it has always been securely stationed within the display case, obviously to avoid breakage. In 2012, however, some pioneering scholars at the University of Manchester invited our cat to be part of the ancient Egyptian animal biobank. The project at the K&H Center for Biomedical Egyptology, which ran from 2010, sought to collect medical information about more than 800 mummified animals from ancient Egypt now distributed across the museums of the world. They captured images with help from the Manchester Children's Hospital, shown here, and collected the images along with all other data in a biobank, which is a data bank of biological data, external measurements, images, and samples. Doctors and medical researchers use a biobank to compare lots of similar but different items, and also to trace changes in populations. So a data bank of biological information about wrapped, partially wrapped, and completely wrapped, or completely unwrapped animal mummies is an excellent way to study aspects of ancient animals as well as the mummification process. For example, to compare our cat to other ancient Egyptian cats. So when Dr. Stephanie Atherton-Woolham and Dr. Lydia McKnight, shown here, invited our cat to join their biobank, we jumped at the opportunity for a road trip. Our conservator, Fred Vandegeer, gave us permission and a nice cushioned box for the cat. So on a lovely early summer day in July 2012, the cat and I went by train to Manchester. There were a few other mummified creatures from other UK collections in Manchester that day. Ibises that turned out to be no more than chicken bones, crocodiles, both babies and adults, and even some cats to compare to ours. Here's from Derby that had some nicely preserved cartonnage, meaning the wrappings. Ours had lost most of its wrappings, as you have seen, but at least it had a jar to protect it. When we got to the hospital, the first question they asked me was if the cat had ever been out of its jar. It seemed not, and certainly I'd never let anyone remove its stopper in my 12 years as curator. I thought if anyone would convince me to let the cat out of the jar, however, it would be those scientists in Manchester, but they said no. They'd get enough information without breaking into the jar. As it turns out, the radiologists, the people who make Xrays, got really excited about our cat, especially because of the jar. You see, this is Victorian leaded glass, and that means glass that is more than 10% made of a substance called lead oxide, possibly to help with transparency and/or strength. But lead is also something that blocks X-rays. Anyone who's ever been to the hospital with a broken bone and had an X-ray has been given a lead shield to wear over their body to protect them from the rays. In fact, lead totally blocks the rays. The lead oxide that the Victorians put in their glass works a bit like sunblock, letting through some but not all rays. So the radiologist had to ramp up the radiation to get this good picture of our cat, shown on the right. And then there was the CAT scan, which entails going into a tubular machine like this. CAT scans aren't just for cats. Here's a human mummy going into a CAT scan machine. The CAT, in the name of the technique, is an acronym for computer-aided tomography. The tomography is the study of the shape of something by slicing it up, virtually or visually, into sections. Tomography actually comes from the Greek words for slice, tomos, and write, or draw, grapho. So, here's the CAT scan of our cat. All this imaging didn't tell us anything we didn't know, as it turns out. Our cat was still a cat, whiskers and all, but it rather confirmed it was a pretty healthy cat. They had told us cats were good for tissue samples, but they didn't take samples of our cat since we didn't break into the jar, which reminds visitors, however, of an important part of its story. Still, It was fun for our cat and curators to take a trip to Manchester, and excellent for the doctors to find out that our cat was in good health, at least before it died in ancient Egypt. Thank you.